People need to realize that the Candace Owens approach is actually borderline.
Do you think that there's time and place to correct folks that perhaps go too far on the pro-Israel side? There is this idea that like any criticism about anything related to Israel is met with such a vitriol and everything is anti-Semitic.
Here we are in America, fat, dumb, and happy. What do we even know what we're talking about? Have we seen what's happening? Have you been to Israel?
Ruslan.
Okay, before we get into this video, guys, if you know me, you know that I am a huge fan of the hit show House of David, produced by my friend John Irwin and the amazing people over at Wonder Project. And so I already had the Wonder Project subscription within Amazon Prime watching House of David with my son, but I was even more ecstatic when they reached out to make sure that we get the word out about their brand new service within Amazon Prime. Now, it's not just for the House of David. When I signed up, I discovered that there's over 100 additional titles on here, edited versions of family favorites like The Patriot and Dead Poets Society and Antoine Fisher. Sandlot is on here. There are so many amazing titles on here. And the dope part is it's not just faith-based. There's a lot of Christian stuff on here, a lot of biblical stuff on here, but it's also value-based. And there's also like a new documentary on there with King and Country. And again, the best part about it is that you can watch it with your family without worrying about anything inappropriate popping up on the screen. It's only $8.99 a month, or you can save 17% by signing up for the entire year for only $89.99. And an annual subscription is a beautiful way to support the mission of the Wonder Project and also signal to the industry that this sort of entertainment that's faith-based and value-based is needed and demanded by our community. And it also helps the wonderful people at the Wonder Project continue creating and making amazing media. Link is in the pinned comment and description. Let's jump into this conversation. In terms of modern day Israel,
Yes.
how does one navigate with modern day Israel regarding what's happening in Gaza?
Do everything you can to bring them to Christ. Let's take Gaza.
Okay.
How much do we know about Gaza? Have we been to Gaza? Who are we listening to? Simple. Let's start here. How about if we go to, let's go to the spectrum. Spectrum to the right is like all Israel news, Joel Rosenberg. So we'll get his news reporters. And then let's go all the way to the other side of the spectrum and let's get, there's not much of a difference between BBC, Al Jazeera. They're both covering the exact same event and they're both saying the opposite things. Here we are in America, fat, dumb, and happy. What do we even know what we're talking about? Have we seen what's happening? Have you been to Israel? Have I been to Israel where we're going through Bethlehem and I see news reporters paying kids $20 bills to throw rocks at our tour bus? Yes, I have. What's that all about? News is made sometimes. Sometimes news doesn't happen. But I am not saying that Israel's sinless. How about this? The same scrutiny I apply to Israel and to Netanyahu, I apply to Trump and to the United States of America, which, by the way, is the same level of scrutiny I apply to Canada and their prime minister. But what a weird thing is, none of those countries I just mentioned does God claim to have a covenant with them. Doesn't make them sinless. They're not. But we need to be careful because it's easy for us to throw rocks across the pond, so to speak. But I have, you mentioned being with the SEALs. I've had the honor of being with the AIF. You don't hear much about the IAF, the Israeli Air Force. I have seen in real time Israel's response while I was in Israel on an airbase when rockets were launched from southern Lebanon. And I watched how Israel responded. I was there for about 4 hours, and you're watching overhead. Israel did absolutely nothing. It doesn't mean they're not going to do something later, but here's what happened. The day that I was there, it was discovered that rockets were being launched out of a elementary school in southern Lebanon. Israel identified that it was a school. They chose not to attack that school. Their reason was they took 7 rocket launches into Israel and they never once attacked that school. That's why, and maybe you know, there's a famous British general who does podcasts, and he did a video again at PragerU. And this guy said Israel is the IDF is the most moral military that he has ever seen on earth. Now keep that in mind. War is hell, as the proverb goes, and no one's sinless. But we need to be careful that while we're throwing stones at Israel, we can throw those same stones at America. Mm-hmm. The point is this: it's not going to be right till Jesus comes back. So what do? We need to witness to every Palestinian the love of Jesus. I happen to be heavily involved in a group called Home. People from our church, they're not going to know this. They're going to find out from your program right now. I am very, very involved with Hospital Outreach Middle East. That organization is a wing of Samaritan's Purse. It is an outreach to provide medical care to Muslim women and children, because I'll just say that they don't get good medical care, women and children, in Islam. Why do we do this? Because when we're giving them medical care, we're giving them the gospel. Okay? What about Jews? Jews need their Messiah. They need to hear. And if we get a chance, I'd love to show you, you'll appreciate this. I will show you a verse that to this date, after being a Christian for 49 years, I've never had one rabbi refute the verse about Messiah from the Old Testament. So you can't let me go. I'm an old guy. I'm going to trust you. You got to remind me. That said, the Bible commands you and me to provoke the Jew to jealousy, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. We are supposed to cause them to want the Messiah that we know. And when we say to them, hey, you know what? I don't know what's going on with Netanyahu. I don't know what's up, but your prophets told me that God sets up kings and he tears kings down. That's God's business. Let's pray for him and let's expose what's wrong. Of course. But let's keep this in mind. Being a Gentile, I'm a Gentile, but my God's Jewish. Jesus died on the cross. He's the King of the Jews. And you guys should listen to him. Oh, we can't do that. We can't do that. He was a heretic. Well, I can prove to you that he wasn't. And my dialogue with Jews, it's fun. But I'm telling you, don't let someone say to you, well, we just have to turn a blind eye to all that Israel's doing. That's stupid. No, you don't. But you need to understand, God said, I'm going to bring them back. They're not going to believe in me. They won't believe in me until I, Ezekiel 38, supernaturally deliver them from an incredible invasion. Then, timestamp, there you go. Timestamp the word then. You have to look at the word then in light of that word again, that dirty word, dispensation. Because God says, when this war takes place, then they will begin to believe in me. That's a dispensation.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying you don't just turn a blind eye if and when Israel misbehaves. You don't, you definitely believe Jews need Jesus and they need to place their faith in Jesus. You are saying that there is some sort of future great awakening that's going 100%. To happen when there's a deliverance that happens.
Absolutely.
And so do you think that there's time and place to correct folks that perhaps go too far on the pro-Israel side? Of
course.
Where they're like, hey, any critique you present is always, because that's just so you know, that's what I'm experiencing. Like I went on the Sean Ryan podcast and I read that verse.
By the way, I love that guy. I want to go on his podcast.
Yeah, he's great.
He doesn't know who I am, but I love that guy's show.
So I read the verse and we said, hey man, we don't like what's happening in Gaza, but for me, it's very difficult to look at Romans, to look at Ezekiel and not acknowledge that God has some sort of future plan for Israel. And even in the most gentle critique, I have some household names, I'll tell you who they are offline, that are messaging me and saying I need to be re-educated on Israel and I don't know what I'm talking about. And like I've been to Israel, I've been to Gaza, I've seen these sorts of things. I'm also Armenian, and so I've been to the Armenian quarter, which isn't open to most people, right? Unless you know someone there.
Yes, exactly.
So I also know some of the tensions that Armenians face. I know some of the tensions that the Christians face.
Yeah.
I actually know much more about Israel than the average person.
Yeah.
And so it's like there is this idea that like any criticism about anything related to Israel is met with such a vitriol and everything is anti-Semitic.
I think it's ignorance.
And I go, hey, like I don't think that. I was talking to was talking to Michael Knowles, and he was talking about, hey, you know, they shot a church in Gaza, one of the few standing churches. And he said, hey, they're saying that it was an accident. And he was like, and I could say that I think we need less accidents to churches in Gaza.
Okay, so here's what I would say, because again, remember, my background is more science. Let's see if we can create it and then break it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would ask Michael Knowles sarcastically. I'm just lovingly being sarcastic. Hey, Michael, who said it was an accident?
The IDF said it was an accident.
Okay, so in the IDF, who said it was an accident? How did you determine it's an accident, Mr. IDF person?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because Billy Bop over here pulled the trigger while he was sneezing or something.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to question things before we judge things. Let's do some fact finding, and I'm all for that. But please, people need to realize that the Candace Owens approach is actually borderline mental case.
Okay, tell me
There's
more.
something seriously wrong.
What do you mean?
The Jews did everything. The Jews killed Charlie. The Jews, everything about the Jews, and the Jews. And honestly, if they're that powerful, then why aren't things way better for them? If they control Hollywood, why do they absolutely reek at controlling PR? They're terrible at it. If the Jews are so fantastic at all this stuff that she claims they are, or so bad that they are, everything is, I'm sorry to say it, just blame the Jew. In fact, I don't know if you saw, what's his face? Who's the guy, Tatum? Officer Tatum just did it.
Brandon Tatum, yeah. I just talked to Brandon a couple days ago.
He just did a cool podcast on, about the Jews being blamed for everything. We have to be careful. We cannot blame the Canadians for everything. Well, we're not talking about Canadians. That's exactly right. But we cannot just, I tell you what, if the conclusion regarding world events is easy for us to immediately spew, we're probably wrong.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. I think the idea that the Jews are, I think it's so ridiculous because the second most populated Jewish city is New York City. And they're about to elect a Marxist Muslim mayor.
Yep.
And so it's like, if they control everything.
Yeah, what's with that?
Well, they can't even control their own city.
Exactly.
If you want to see the full extended version of this conversation, as well as all of our future conversations, have access to the chat, be able to ask our guests questions, Patreon, the link is in the description and the pinned comment below. Here's a little preview of this conversation. All right, I'll see you over on Patreon. Peace. The legendary, if I may say so myself, Pastor Jack Hibbs. Thank you so much for being here.
Pastor Jack Hibbs joins us now.
But I do want to make sure I say this. Every Sunday I watch Jack. This is a courageous man that is doing so much for our country.
And if we turn on Israel, I think in short order, you will see the hand of God's judgment fall upon this Christ-rejecting nation. I have seen in real time, while I was in Israel, on an airbase, when rockets were launched from southern Lebanon.
You brought up Trump. A lot of conversation, a lot of hoopla around Christian nationalism.
Should be. The IDF is the most moral military that he has ever seen on earth. And when we say to them, hey, you know what? I don't know what's going on with Netanyahu. I don't know what's up, but your prophets told me that God sets up.
Hey, there's a difference between, like, I think everybody's like, get the criminals out. But when you're hearing reports of like, hey, this abuela's been here for 20 years. They don't have a criminal record. And it seems like some of those folks are getting caught up.
Ruslan